streaming on YouTube. We are streaming on Twitch. It looks like we're good to go.
Ooh.
All right. Hello, everybody, and welcome to another edition of Magic Mics, proudly sponsored by our Patreon supporters and CoolStuffInc.com, where you can find cool stuff in stock every day. I'm Evan Irwin, and we get started each week by saying hello to my two co-hosts, Aaron Campbell.
Guten Abend.
Ruben Bressler.
That's not a thing that I'm open with. I'm excited about the Guten Abend.
You're not cool with that?
No.
Not really.
No particular reason.
Well, we certainly appreciate you guys hanging out and being here to discuss all things Magic. That said, we begin each week with our giveaway, and this week, celebrating today, basically, which is sort of like Vampire Day, whereas tomorrow's going to be Wizard Day, but today's Vampire Day. So we are going to give away a 2017 Commander Vampire deck to a lucky entry, and I'm going to post the link in the chats. It's going to be in Twitter on 15 minutes after the hour if you miss it. Otherwise, go in there, check it out, enter, good luck. Maybe you too can take home a sweet Commander deck.
It looks like it doesn't suck.
Nice, yeah.
Or maybe it does,
well
because
done.
it's... You think about that, you think it... All right. The Vampire deck both sucks and doesn't suck all at the same time. All right, so...
I get it, because it's vampires, and that's how they kill you.
Is that how they do it?
Is that they suck.
They suck. All right. So we're just some quick sort of housekeeping for Magic Mics, if you will. Next week, our top 10, because basically there's this thing called Gen Con, and then there's this other thing called a solar eclipse, and it turns out between all those things, it is disrupting stuff. And I will be at Gen Con. If anyone else is at Gen Con, you see me, say hello. However, that means that
I'll be in the middle of the woods at a hippie convention, basically.
Yeah, you're not going to be able to find
solar
Ruben.
eclipse.
Yeah, he's gone. But so that means our top 10 is going to go live on Monday evening. We're not going to be able to have a live show next Wednesday. However, we will be back in action Wednesday, August 23rd, to discuss everything that's happened between then and now. And our top 10 will have an episode next week, but we'll not have one thereafter. However, once again that happens, we'll get back on the train, and everything will be great, and that'll be super sweet. So,
right, here we go.
For slogging through the standard usuals of scheduling, let's talk about something really, really sweet. Aaron, tell us a little bit about our tokens that I will put on the screen now.
So it's taken us a while to get this started, and we really wanted to make it up to people and really show them what we've had in mind. And we found a really good artist who I don't want to name quite yet because the token isn't finished. We're still in the very early stages, but the artist that we chose sent us the initial sketches for each of our 3 tokens, and they look amazing. I tweeted mine the other day and got a very positive response. I posted it to my Facebook, and everybody there really liked it. I really love mine. Mine is going to be the Monarch token. I had sent the artist a picture of, I kind of wanted to go with a, when you go to the museum, you see paintings of queens from back in the day. I really wanted like the big poofy dress. I really wanted the jewelry, but I also wanted dead things because that's very synonymous with my brand. And so, they have me in a graveyard with tombstones, and I'm holding a skull, which is really cool.
Yeah.
And I just love mine. I think it's really great. And yours also looks incredible, you guys.
Yeah. I was very pleased with mine. My idea was I wanted to be a wizard who's like commanding some squirrels, which are basically tree rats for all of you Ruben Rat fans out there.
Wow.
And I'm really pleased with how mine is coming along. I got the angry spellcaster look on my face. I'm really proud of that one. So
yours kind of reminds me of Mentor of the Meek.
Yeah.
The way it has the weird like point going on. I really liked it.
Yeah, I'm quite pleased with where mine's heading.
That's awesome. I mean, for mine, I literally am torn right now between should it be an experience token or counter, if you will, or should it be a 5/5 horse?
Right. Oh, because mine is going to be an emblem, everyone. Mine is just going to signify emblem, and then Aaron's is the monarch.
Right.
So
experience
is like, other than poison, I guess, is the one that like is enchanted players or whatever.
Right.
But look at his horse. His horse is amazing.
Right. My horse is amazing, and that's kind of the point. However, I am kind of getting into be old man Magic these days, and like, you remember back when I cracked an Ice Age pack? I mean, and that's kind of what someone in that position would probably go on about, their old war stories. So that said, that is where our tokens are at. When those tokens are made, they're currently still obviously in art production, and then they'll need to be designed with frames and stuff, and then we'll have to figure out printing things and how we're going to make them and where they're going to go, and all that stuff's going to go to our Patreon supporters first and foremost, because Lord knows they've been patient.
Thank you.
Yeah, we appreciate that. All right, so finally, now let's get to the first pick. And the first pick this week for Magic players was that the long rumored, the long discussed, the long chatted about Magic Digital Next. That was supposed to be the big thing. That was supposed to be the Messiah that was supposed to, you know, right all the wrongs and fix all the problems. And Magic Duels was out and Magic Digital Next is in. And this is totally not Magic Duels 2.0. It's Magic Duels 2.0.
Yeah.
Just like 100%. And it's called, and I'll bring it up here on the screen, MTG Magic the Gathering Arena was announced on August 3rd. The Magic the Gathering Wizards account says that digital game we are working on has a real name now. Magic the Gathering Arena, not to be confused with Magic the Gathering Arena of the Planeswalkers, not to be confused with any of the cards Arena like, or, you know, just the card literally Arena. Right. And I got to tell you, I'm not super happy with the name personally. Seems a little meh.
Yeah, I mean, they've used Arena for a bunch of stuff before, including Arena promos, and all the, you know, like the board games and stuff that you've mentioned. So, you know, I'm not super blown away by it. But then again, naming things is hard, man.
Naming stuff is pretty difficult. I mean, and the thing is that people have collections and they have money tied up in duels of the Planeswalkers. You know, they have their magical coins or whatever that they can earn, and there's coins that you can buy, and there's packs that you can open, and you can play Constructed, and that's sweet. And then they're like, yeah, we're shutting that down. So all that value goes away. And now we're basically making a new version, which totally is not like the old version. Please play this instead of Hearthstone, I guess. I mean, is that
right? I mean, we don't really know what this is yet. This is all we know. We just know the name.
That's right.
So
we'll see.
Maybe it's not like
we're trending.
Things we've seen before.
We're seeing stuff sort of come out slowly but surely. Something's supposed to happen that lets us know exactly what this is supposed to be. We've seen like one random screenshot which looked very, you know, Hearthstone-esque, or even Duels-esque, honestly, but just a lot, you know, flashier. But anyway, we have a name for Magic the Gathering Arena. It's coming at some point. Okay. There just happened to be a Dota card game that was announced the other day.
I saw that.
God. Didn't they say
difficult to pull off?
Didn't they say that we'll know more the first week of September? Didn't they say the 7th? I think it was.
Oh yes, they were going to have an event or something, like a streaming event. They were going to talk about
it,
something like that. And obviously, you know, I want this thing to go gangbusters. I hope they do it right, and I hope they right all the wrongs and it fixes all the problems. And honestly, if, you know, their big reveal is, hey, this is the new Magic Online, and we just, you know, we already moved your collections over, and you can download it right now, then I'll wake up.
Yeah,
you're giving them a lot of credit on that one.
Giving a whole lot. Look, man, this Chris Cox dude, he's there. He's there. He's making changes. He's doing things the Cox way. You understand? That's how he's doing it. All right. So, Commander 2017. How you guys feeling about Commander 2017 at this point?
Love it.
It looks sweet. I mean, it's not directed at me, but I'm always happy when these kind of super flavorful products come out. And some of the cards do look pretty sweet.
They look great, and it feels like Wizards is really getting, like, obviously they've been getting good at it, but they're, like, getting really good at it. Hitting cards that do really cool things, super fun in multiplayer environments. Like, it doesn't really matter because, you know, Legacy's never going to play a 6-mana anything that doesn't just win the game on the spot. So, you know, go nuts. Do super cool, crazy stuff with silly mechanics and have some fun with it.
Yeah, sure.
So, I want to talk about a few of the spoilers that are essentially new cards. Now, we don't have a spoiler this time, and this wasn't because we did something wrong and Wizards is very mad at us.
Evan.
At me.
Right.
I even said
we
that.
don't think it is.
When I saw the spoilers, when I saw everybody getting spoilers, you know, normally Evan sends us an email like a month before with our preview cards, and I was like, "What did you do?" It's like, "Are you the reason we don't have a preview card?"
Right.
It's all my fault.
Pissed off Wizards.
Yeah, done made them super mad. You know, I'm sleeping on the couch. Maybe we'll get in their good graces for another spoiler or something, it'll be fine. Either way, they've been given them through different outlets, as I understand it. The strategy is that Commander is obviously a very unique format with different people. They don't have a lot of spoilers because there's just 4 decks with different cards in them. So that's cool. However, on the screen here, I want to bring up first of all Fractured Identity. It's a blue and a white and 3 generic mana for a rare sorcery. Exile target non-land permanent. Each player other than its controller creates a token that's a copy of it. So the cool part about this card is like, oh wow, I can get rid of their thing and everybody gets one of their thing. That's pretty sweet. And then you go next level. And Ruben, what's the next level on this one?
The next level is Phage the Untouchable.
And who controls it again?
Well, the rest of everybody else, I guess. So the way that Phage the Untouchable works is that if you put it into play in a way that isn't just casting it for 1 billion mana, then you lose the game. And this has been used to varying degrees of success, even in constructed play. For example, if you remember, for a brief period of time, when you played the Storm deck, people would sideboard in Telemann Performance against you.
Yeah.
I knew several people who would sideboard in 1 Phage in their Storm deck because they could shuffle it back in with Sea Beyond, and they could scry it to the bottom, and then they could just get people. I've seen it happen. I've seen it happen in real life.
Wow.
I remember Christian Valenti did a lap around the room when one of his friends got Telemann Performance at a PTQ. In any case, in multiplayer, or in any number of player, even heads up, if you target your own Phage the Untouchable with Fractured Identity and it resolves, your opponent gets a copy, and they didn't cast it, so they lose. So that's a good good casual 12 mana 2 card win the game across 3 colors. So that's a pretty fun one.
Which is fine. It's an Esper. It's fun.
Okay, sure, why not?
I like it. It was one of those cards I was like, man, that's really cool. And then somebody said, well, why don't you just destroy your own thing and then give everybody else something terrible? And I was like, oh, I love this card. I love this card.
Now, sometimes your opponent is going to have a Platinum Angel in play, so I guess that's the downside. But yeah, that's my favorite.
Maybe even like Demonic Pacts, just be like, whoop, everybody gets packs, and then like 3 turns they lose the game.
Right, but that's at 3 turns. They get to untap, they get to draw a card, they get to make you discard cards.
You could time it, couldn't you? Oh no, because we refreshed. Okay, never mind. So
fair enough.
But yeah, Demonic Pact also works.
All right, so the next card I wanted to talk about was a 3 mana white creature, a white and 2 generic mana for a rare 3/3 cat archer. Stalking Leonin has an amazing mechanic that I want to see in actual factual standard. Or maybe not, but in actual factual multiplayer products from now on, because it's a great mechanic. Yeah. When it enters the battlefield, you secretly choose an opponent. Now, for standard or something that would be constructed, you probably secretly choose a creature or something. But regardless, then it says, reveal the player you chose, : I think that's super sweet, that the activation of an ability is for you to reveal something that you chose secretly. I think that's super cool. Exile target creature that's attacking you. If it's controlled by the chosen player, activate this ability only once. That is awesome. Hidden information, you get to keep it. They're not sure what it is, but it's kind of a mind game as to what it's supposed to be. And if that turned into choose an opponent secretly to choose a card or a spell or a creature secretly, those are the type of mind games that I think are super cool, and you get to really see them shine in like really high level events.
This one, I think, has at least the potential to sneak into Legacy. Like, it's a reasonable size body, and it's a removal spell attached to that body. Now, obviously, you need to have a lot of things go right in order for this thing to take down like a Dark Depths token, or at least keep a Merit Lage from attacking you. But it's a 3/3 for 3. You can certainly reset its ability with Flicker Wisp, various other things in Death and Taxes. I think that it's a pretty sweet card.
You can Violet in.
Yep, you can Violet in after they've already declared attackers, and it just stays in play. I think Stalking Leonin's great.
The card was super cool. And the last one on this slide right here I want to talk about was something that Wizards kind of noted that they are okay doing is to go back and find a card that find a character that already had a card and it sucked, and let's make it sweet. So what they did was they went back and did Mirri from Weatherlight. Mirri, Weatherlight Duelist, is a green, white, and a generic mana for a 3/2 legendary cat warrior. She's mythic. She has first strike, and whenever she attacks, each opponent can't block with more than 1 creature this combat. And as long as it's tapped, no more than 1 creature can attack you each combat. So this card is awesome.
Yeah, card's great.
I saw some Legacy folks, specifically in Maverick, because you can tutor this with Green Sun. This is a thing that I saw some people say that they wanted to play around with. And Magali, again, just killing the game. Like, oh, this card is just beautiful.
Yeah, Christine said that she's already interested in trying to build a cosplay of being an actual cat person. Mirri actually has 2 cards, remember. One of them is Mirri the Cursed.
The Cursed, yes.
When she turned into a black creature in the alternate time, in the darkest timeline.
I hated that card.
The card was good.
It was, the card was good.
The card was sweet.
Medium.
Yeah,
and then, of course, the original Mirri was one of the original, just put a bunch of keywords on a creature and hope it's good.
And that art's beautiful.
Yeah, and that art's greght.
That art's great, but, Forest Walk.
Right, medium. I really like, Forest Walk. And I really like how Mirri sort of harkens back to Dueling Grounds from Apocalypse, which was a sort of storytelling moment in the Apocalypse cards where it basically has the same effect. Players can only attack with 1 creature, players can only block with 1 creature, and just sort of staple it onto a 3/2 with First Strike. I'm really excited about this card. I think that Maverick is the deck that I like the most in Legacy when it's playable. And a buddy of mine, Danny Batterman, recently won a Legacy event with a version. And yeah, I could definitely see this having a 1/0 slot in there. The colorless green-white slot already being occupied a lot by Knight of the Reliquary makes it a little tough, but I think that this has a place, at least worth testing.
Very nice. So we go on to our next slide of cards, and this one brings back something from literally 2 decades ago. We'll get to in just a second. First up, let's talk a little bit about Licia. Is that correct, Aaron?
Yeah, Licia is fine. I've been calling her Licia. Yeah.
Is it Licia? I mean, Licia? I mean, is it?
I think Licia is fine. Like, I'm getting kind of a Roman vibe off of it. So yeah, that makes sense.
So anyway, this woman's name, Sanguine Tribune, is a black, white, red, and 5 generic mana, an 8 mana card, an 8 mana 4/4 even, that is a legendary vampire soldier. However, she costs 1 generic mana less to cast for each 1 life that you've gained this turn. Has First Strike, has Lifelink. You pay 5 life, you put 3+1/+1 counters on her, activated only on your turn and only once each turn. So if you're playing around with life gain, life loss, draining them, draining you, gaining life, losing life, this seems like a super cool card in that regard. However, I think the most exciting part of this is that this is the Roman world. This is Roman magic. This is where we've been to the Greek, we've been to the Theros, but we haven't been to sort of the Roman, which I think is going to be more about, politics, sort of like Poliano, essentially, but different, to have our own kind of Caesars, for example, and to get into the Senate and to have things happen sort of political intrigue-wise. That is what I am really excited about in terms of a Roman world.
Yeah. Magali, again, just, oh, God, she's so good. Like, I woke up this morning to the card, and shout out to the professor and Sprinkle for revealing this card in a video, but this art is gorgeous. Like, look at that art. Like, look at her armor. Look at the way she's kind of crouched down. Look at the headdress. Look at the background. You see what looks like almost petals or maybe even feathers coming from the sky. She's just amazing. Like, just when you think Magali can't top herself, she does it again. You just have this beautiful character. And sort of the reverse Rakdos. If you remember, Rakdos costs less for every life lost. Or like you had to do damage to even cast it. And this kind of has the reverse effect with the life link and, having a life sink, especially if you are playing a deck that can gain lots of life, after you've already sort of achieved your purpose of getting her onto the board, you can just sort of pour it into something and have this really neat reusable effect. It also helps negate the commander cost. Sometimes there's a tax of when your commander gets killed or your commander goes back in the zone, things cost more. That's a colorless tax, which you can negate with life gain. And so I'm really excited about this card. I run Queen Marchesa in Commander, and I don't know if she'd fit in that list necessarily, but Licia is definitely the reason why I'm really preferring the vampire deck so far above the rest. I would totally play it.
I'm being told that it is Licia. Licia.
Sure.
I like Licia better, but okay.
Whichever. I think that Licia is an interesting, it's got like a 10% chance of actually seeing play in Legacy. You can definitely finagle a way to get this creature into play on turn 3. Like, there are ways to gain the 5 life necessary to just give it the discount. And then it's 3 mana for a creature that can't be killed by Abrupt Decay. It's a first striker.
Has lifelink.
With 4 power, so it battles Batter Skulls and things like that pretty effectively. It has lifelink, so it can race Delver of Secrets and things like that. Yeah, I think that Licia, or whatever, Licia, there's a possibility there where it could see some 60 card play rather than just 99 card play.
Very nice. So Licia, I'll just go ahead. I'm in the Licia camp because at least I don't know, 2 different people said Licia, so good, we're going with it.
Sure.
However, Licia's sweet. That said, Wizards brought back something that is literally 20 years old. Yes. This card can this mechanic can almost drink at this point. Just almost.
And when you play this card, you're going to want to take a drink.
Especially if you're a judge. Yeah.
Oh my god. So Teferi's Protection is a white and 2 generic mana rare instant. Until your next turn, your life total can't change, and you have protection from everything. All permanents you control phase out. They put the words phase out on a card, and they haven't done that since 1997. Yeah. 1997.
Shimmers was still one of my favorite cards of all time. Fight me. I love it.
Oh my god. And it says here, this reminder text is while they're phased out, they're treated as though they don't exist. They phase in before you untap during your untap step. Okay. And then you exile Teferi's Protection. So, flavor-wise, this is awesome. This is the point where Teferi actually phased out his own homeland to save everybody and do all that stuff. That's super cool. That moment was never shown in a card before. Now it's got a card. The effect itself, I think, is super awesome. Like, even if it's just multiplayer only, like your life total can't change. Basically, somebody does something stupid, and you're like, I'm out. I'm going to be over here not doing things for a while.
There's even some people that are coming up with ways to do shenanigans with it. I think there's a card called Elite Arcanist, the blue card, where you can just copy it, and just if you ever decide that you're in a bind, just be like, whoop, and just oh my god.
Elite Arcanist, if I recall correctly, I'm not sure exactly the wording, but basically that means that you just don't exist on any of your opponent's turns. Basically, for the rest of the game.
Elite Arcanist, for those who didn't remember like myself, is a card from M14. For a blue and 3 generic mana, it's a 1/1. When it enters the battlefield, you may exile an instant card from your hand. X, generic mana, tap, : copy the exiled card. You may cast this copy without paying its mana cost, and X is the converted mana cost of the exiled card. Okay. That's pretty awesome. For 3 mana, just skip your turn. Skip your turn. Skip your turn.
So skip your own turn. But on your turn, you still get to do stuff. Yeah. It's really good. I think that this card's hilarious. I also enjoy the playtest development story. I forget where I saw it, where they were trying to build this card to basically flavorfully be what this effect is, and then realized that they just wanted it to be phasing, and they just decided to put phasing on the card because this is again flavor text without being flavor text, right? This is what Teferi did for a long time, was just mess with phasing things like Teferi's Imp, Teferi's Isle, Teferi's Curse. This is what Teferi did for a long time, and so to have him be the namesake of a card with phasing that we haven't seen for 20 years is just spectacular.
I'm waiting for the buyout on Tawny-Waz. Let's do this. Come on.
I'm not.
There was also some speculation of, would phasing come back in Dominaria? Is Teferi going to come back? Is he dead? Is he confirmed? Do we know the status of Teferi? Okay, well, I saw people speculating on Twitter. I think it's fantastic. I'm fine with Teferi coming back. I'm fine with phasing coming back.
I'm ready for the Phyrexians to come back. I'm ready to see Phyrexia after new Phyrexia, after the ridiculous craziness of the Phyrexian mana. Like Richard Garfield on the design team. Let's do this. Let's make it happen. I'm really excited about it. That said, Teferi's Protection, super cool card, amazing flavor. Lord God.
There are ways to abuse it in every format. You can, various things like World Fire and et cetera, et cetera. Teferi's Protection, certainly an interesting card to have added. And also they changed the rules just because they printed this card real quick. Phasing, for those who weren't around back in the day, phasing basically is exiling everything you control, except for that when it comes back, it doesn't ever leave play and it doesn't ever come back into play. It just phases out of existence. So you don't get the enter the battlefield triggers. You don't get any of that stuff.
And the enchantments stay on, and all the other good stuff.
All the enchantments stay on. All the tokens stay, or all the counters stay on. And now Matt Tabak has tweeted that the tokens you control, the non-card permanents you control, come back. So phasing no longer does the Batterskull trick. So your Sapphire Charms are no longer the sweet tech against Batterskull and Legacy, basically. So the way it worked back in the day was that if you phased out a token and that had equipment equipped to it, the token would never phase back into play, and all equipment would stay attached to the phased out token. So the Batterskull would be removed forever. And that's why Sapphire Charm and phasing effects were interesting against Batterskull. That rule has changed. The tokens will come back. And
to be clear, that's only phasing. That's not blinking. So things like phasing. Flicker Wisp. So if you Flicker Wisp a token, it's still going to die, and you'll still lose your bridges, which is very sad. I got excited for a second there. I was like,
yeah. See, there's this mechanic from 20 years ago now works differently than the people who even remember it from 20 years ago, let alone the judges who spent time remembering and memorizing what it does. And now this weird Sapphire Charm trick, which, by the way, for 1 blue, it was for Mirage. Target creature an opponent controls phases out.
It was one of the 3 modes, yeah.
Yeah, I never even knew that was a thing. That's amazing.
Back when Stoneblade was super popular, people were sideboarding like 1 Sapphire Charm.
Right. So this Teferi's response entire is just Robin Williams going, "What year is it?" That's basically where we're at right now.
Yeah, and because phasing, I guess, is going to be a thing again, because this card, it's a thing. This card is a very powerful effect. You have protection from everything is a big deal. And if the Elite Arcanist thing happens, remember the creature doesn't leave or enter the battlefield again. It just sort of becomes a ghost.
Right.
So the spell just stays on your creature forever.
Right. All those things that, again, when you think of blinking and exits and exiles and comes back and what happens, doesn't happen. And that's not confusing at all. And I've already got like 3 or 4 questions on Twitter, and I was about to answer the token thing, and I was like, man, I wonder if they're going to change the rules for the tokens. They're going to change the rules for the tokens.
Right.
Because they made this thing, okay, it's weird. I don't get it. Fine. Sure.
Yeah.
Next, Hungry Lynx. Kitty cats always get preference here. A green and a generic mana for a 2/2 rare cat. And this has the best line. The best line. Cats you control have protection from rats. Yeah.
That's an amazing line of, again, rules text being flavor text. I want to turn this into a top 10 of, like, what are the best rules text? Like, what's the best sentence of rules text on a card? This is like an automatic include in the top 10.
It's pretty good. I mean, the land continues to burn, stuff like that. Amazing. This one, warriors or cowards can't block warriors, stuff
cowards
like that.
Can't block warriors. If this is monstrous, you can block 99 additional creatures. Like, this is in the Hall of Fame with those.
Cats you control have protection from rats. At the beginning of your instep, target opponent creates a 1/1 black rat creature with Death Touch. A token, obviously. Whenever a rat dies, you put a +1/+1 counter on each cat you control. So every cat you have can now block these Death Touch rats or be blocked by them, and you don't care. And then they get bigger every time a rat dies, which is amazing. They kind of give a gift. Fantastic. They give a gift to their owner, which is, not a crazy thing when you have a cat and they bring you dead things. Which happens.
It's so good. I can't believe that they did me dirty like this right after Reuben Rat was a thing. I'm so sad, but next time there's Rat Tribal. After we have Commander 2024, when they have Rat Tribal, hopefully there will be a hungry other type of rat
that eats cats.
That has protection from cats.
Okay.
Or can't be blocked by cats or something.
Wow.
Because you've seen Tom and Jerry. It doesn't always go the cat's favor.
All right, so. Those are a few of the spoilers. Was there anything that you guys felt like we should have talked about in terms of spoilering that we did not talk about?
Yeah, Socialism Cat. We should have talked about our Alms Collector.
Collector.
That's the one that might actually make it into Legacy. It's I know it's 4 mana, but it has Flash and it has 4 toughness. In addition to the fact that it really just bones Brainstorm and deals with Jace the Mind Sculptor efficiently. And lots of interesting things like that. I think that this is controlling the means of production is a big deal.
So it's the Bourgeois cat. For those who don't know, Alms Collector is a white and 3 generic mana 3/4 rare cat cleric with flash. If an opponent would draw 2 or more cards, instead, you and that player each draw a card.
Right, so, I mean, this works really interestingly with wheel effects, Wheel of Fortune, Days Undoing, stuff like that. You know, Leovold is a card that exists. Not saying that this is going to be in a deck with Leovold. That would be an interesting mana base, certainly. But certainly against Brainstorm, against Sylvan Library, you know, there's some interesting applications for this card.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I'm particularly, I think Edgar Markov is a home run. The art is just fantastic. Shout out to Volkenbaga. I love Eminence as a mechanic. I really hope we see more of that. You know, I think I'm so sold on the Vampire deck. It's going to take a lot to really top that. We're going to see some more of the Wizards deck, I believe, tomorrow.
Right.
But I think it's got some big shoes to fill because I'm really into the Vampires right now. And I really love the curse cycle. I think all these curses are cool. I would love to see a curse deck pop up somehow. I love that they're using the same poor bastard in every single photo.
I love that guy's jacket. I want to cosplay as the guy who's in the curse art.
And I also love Disrupt Decorum. The fact that they brought Goad back, I think, is really cool. It's very red. And I'm going to give you guys some behind-the-scenes dirt. So tomorrow, our friend Cube April, she does these comics of like, you know, like Maro does. And she's got something very nifty planned for that art tomorrow. So if you're not following her, be sure to, because I've seen it, and it's fantastic. So you're going to love it.
Edgar Markov, once you see him versus the Ghostbusters 2 villain, you'll never unsee it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
The last one I wanted to talk about was New Blood. This is the most flavorful card I've seen in a long time. As an additional cost to cast New Blood, tap an untapped vampire you control, gain control of target creature, change the text of that creature by replacing all instances of one creature type with vampire.
That's awesome.
It lets your vampires turn something into another vampire. That's amazing. So you can take your opponent's Lord of Atlantis or their Sliver Queen, or I'm trying to think of other interesting like creatures that aren't just giant idiots, right? Like you could take like the Ur-Dragon, for example. That would be pretty cool.
Wow.
There's a lot of cool stuff that you can do with New Blood, and I just think it's just a neato card.
Olivia looks like Felicia Day in that artwork. Like that's what I see when I look. It's a very different take on Olivia than I'm used to.
Very nice. All right. So one of the things that came out of part of what Wizards was writing about Commander and how they did the Commander decks and why there were 4 decks and yada yada, you know, something that Hipsters of the Coast pointed out. So they said, oh, so this is why they did 4 Commander decks this time. And they talked about there is, you know, the play design team and the R&D guys and whatever. There is the product architecture team. And these are the people who are basically like, you know, let's make bricks of money and send them out on their way. And so for Commander, they were saying that the Commander experience really is a 4-player game experience. It's better at 4 players. It makes more sense at 4 players. Therefore, they only made 4 decks this time, which to me also signals, not in a bad way, that we're going to get 4 decks from here on out. And I'm okay with that.
Yeah, I can agree with that. I try not to play Commander with more than 4 people. I mean, at the most, I'll do 5, but I tend to feel like the games go better with 4. I tend to agree with that.
Right, and most of the content you see on YouTube for Commander is 4-player. Doing anything more than 4 players is usually super difficult, really awkward.
It's really unwieldy. Yeah, when there was the multiplayer meetup with the folks from Command Cast at GP Vegas, it was pretty much all 4-player.
Right.
You know, especially when we drafted the Conspiracy and had the 8-player drafts, then cut it down to 2 4-player games. Mm-hmm. You know, that's just usually how it winds up.
Right. So that to me makes a lot of sense. I'm totally okay with that. There's a whole lot of design space they can do with 4 different things, 4 different, you know, themes or whatever. And I think they've done like an amazing job so far. So
yeah.
You know, so keep that up, Wizards. You're killing it here. All right. So now we're going to go into Gather the Townsfolk, as we do, and talk about some community issues. And Aaron, tell us what happened this weekend to make Magic history.
I was at GP Minneapolis this past weekend. I was playing in some of the vintage side events. Shout out to the fans that I met this past weekend. I met one young man in particular. Shout out to Patrick, Patrick is a prison guard from North Dakota, I believe, and he was very, very sweet. I ran into him when I was waiting in line at the prize wall. He was playing a Grixis Tesserator, which was this in Standard, which was this really sweet list with Bolus and Sweltering Suns and all of that. And I think he went 5-3-1. He said, and he was very, very lovely. So shout out to all the very nice people I met this weekend. But the most noteworthy thing about this GP for me was that for the first time in Magic history, we had 2 women in the booth doing coverage, being Melissa DeTora and Maria Barthaldi from Magic the Amateuring. In all the years of Magic, this had never been done before. You know, we've certainly had a lady in the booth, but we had 2. And this was a really, really big deal. And this was really, really awesome. And it seems like the response on social media was very positive. It seems like they both did very well. And what I love the most about this is there's just nothing you can say. Like, you know, Maria has literal Emmys to her name. And
right.
You know, Melissa DeTora's OG. Like, this is just this is a twosome you got nothing to say about. What can you say? And
right.
It was just amazing. They both did really well. And I also want to talk about another little lady who killed it this weekend. Dana Fisher showed up to the GP dressed as Nissa. She did her coverage for her feature match with Rich Hagan.
Wow.
Yeah,
Go back and watch that
interview
moment.
is my favorite, by the way.
She had Rich speechless for like most of it. Like the wit and the charisma of that child is just ridiculous. So if you can, go back and see Maria and Melissa do coverage, and definitely go back and watch the Dana Fisher interview because there are so many gems there. I think the best moment for me is when Rich is talking to her about like what deck she wants to build, and he says something to the effect of, she mentions wanting to build Legacy Elves, and Rich goes, well, that sounds kind of complicated, and she goes, no, that's Modern Elves. I already have that. Like, what?
Legacy Elves is easier than Modern Elves,
Right?
and I already have that.
She just needs Gaia's Cradles, like whatever, but just that child. Like, oh, she's just so heartwarming. I love her.
That's amazing.
Yeah, it was a big deal. I mean, you know, a lot of folks might poo-poo we're already in 2017, but it's a big deal. And in addition, for the round where Maria and Melissa were in the booth, Megan was doing text coverage.
Hallie was, yeah.
I thought Megan was.
No,
also.
Megan wasn't working the event.
Then
Megan was playing in the event.
Then Hallie Santo was doing text coverage. And it speaks to, you know, we've been talking about this for a while. You know, we've been wanting to figure out the best way to get more women into coverage. You know, I've way back in, I guess this was like 3 years ago at this point, I worked with blanking on the name. I'll come back to it. But in any case, we've been working on trying to do this for a long time, and having the first woman ever to top 8 at Pro Tour, and a woman who, as you mentioned, has literal Emmys on her shelf. I think that's a good way to bolster the idea. And all of the feedback, as far as I can tell, was fantastic. Everyone loved everything that was going on about it. Yeah. So.
That's amazing.
There was also another historic moment that took place this past weekend. There was an Open in New York, a Modern Open, and it's very rare that Ruben and I agree on something. You know, we have very different tastes. You know, you're a little bit Goblin Guide, I'm a little bit Dread Return. You know, we're just very different. But I think we finally found a deck that you and I can agree on. The deck that was the talk of the Open was called Red Green Vengevine. It was created by a young man named Julian Grace Martin. Great deck tech. Go back and watch that. And it includes Hollow One, which is me, Goblin Guide, which is you, Hooting Mandrills,
which is nobody, but
which is Pauper. Thanks.
Which I'm down with. Lightning.
Which is Evan, I guess.
Which is me. I'm the Hooting Mandrill.
I mean, this deck is like, if you and I had a baby, I mean, this would be the fruits of it. And I saw so many people streaming this deck this past weekend. Caleb Durward was streaming it at one point. Sean McLaren was streaming it. My friend Daniela Diaz. Like, this has been the deck that everybody's talking about this week. If you look at different articles on different websites, everybody agrees that it's not completely tuned yet, but they see something here. And I'm so excited to see what people do with it, because I've been wanting Vengevine to be a thing for so long, and it just doesn't play well with Modern Dredge as we know it, but damn it, I would 100% play this.
Yeah, that deck was spectacular. And of course, Caleb Durward, Mr. Vengevine himself, the guy that helped, if not probably not single-handedly, but certainly was the the tip of the spear in getting Survival of the Fittest banned from Legacy. He's the world's biggest Vengevine supporter. Yeah. Excited to see that card get some more play. I really enjoy it. Yeah, I mean, Lightning Bolts and Goblin Guides there for Ruben. Street Wraiths and random graveyard shenanigans there for Aaron. I love everything about this deck. This deck looks great. This looks like the thing, you look at this deck and you're like, oh, I see, we just have to have some Grave Hate, and then you just get Goblin Guided and Lightning Bolted out of the game, right? Or vice versa. It's like, oh, I just need some life gain, and then they just play 4/4s on you for the rest of the game, and it's great. I love it. I think that, the thing that excites me most about this deck is it's not perfect yet. Like, there is room to grow for this deck, and it's already this good.
This is one of those, like, it's kind of been carved out of the rock, There's still some jagged edges, but it's clear that Excalibur's in there somewhere.
Yeah.
If we ever
used, you probably would have to dust the cobwebs off of this one, but if we still have the O2 drop overlay, we could use it. We could use it for this deck. Because I'm not sure I would have the bravery to have brought this to an actual real-life Magic tournament with clearly this guy... with 3 names that I don't recall anymore. Sarah Huckabee Sanders. I assume. Jonathan Taylor Thomas definitely did a good job with this deck. Julian? Yeah.
It looks kind of violent.
Gracemore.
In his defense, though, and I was reading Sean McLaren's article from today, and it was like, it really revolves around playing cheap hollow ones to get your Vengevines back. And I was watching Daniela stream the other night, and there were a couple times where I was looking at her and I was like, why aren't you casting this thing? And she was like, because I'm saving it so that I have my 2 creatures. I also don't have enough Vengevines in. I'm waiting until I can get like the Alpha Strike kill, and like it doesn't look. It's not easy to play. You think it is, but knowing what to pitch, when to play certain things, like I think that's also key here too.
Absolutely. So super cool deck. Basically, if you guys had a baby and I kind of raised it, is that what we're trying to say here?
Right. Yes.
That wouldn't be weird. Kind of surrogate.
You can put a giant Solifuge inside.
You could be our
there's
Manny.
A bunch of randomness.
What's a 6th kid, right?
Manny.
Who cares?
Well, we have the technology now to have we can mix up all the DNA and have a kid together as 3 of us, right?
Wow.
Is that a thing? I'm not a baby scientist, but I'm pretty sure I read an article once. And I did stay at a Holiday Inn Express last night,
you
so
did
I think we could probably figure this out.
At a Holiday Inn. So we talked about April King earlier at Cube April on Twitter, and yesterday she had mentioned that hey, she got paired up against this guy the other day, and he was on my blocked/reported list. How does that happen? And then there's a nice little screenshot of her saying, "Good luck, high five," and them going say, go F yourself, and it's like, that's where we're at. So I kind of raised the question, like, isn't part of this conversation why Magic Online allows such toxic players to remain registered users? What's the line? How many times do you have to insult somebody or yell at somebody or just bring out the salt and be as nasty and as gross as you want to people, and them to be like, all right, it's fine. You're on like a list, but you still don't have to play them in tournaments. So there's that. But even if she apparently had blocked and reported this person, that they could still like talk to her, actually text her in the match, even if they were paired up against each other. So like we've got this program. It's old. It's got some cobwebs on it. However, do we not have any way to say, hey, here's the threshold of where you can't literally talk to anybody anymore. Here's the threshold of you not being able to say anything beyond, like, maybe to chat bots or something, to trade bots. Or here's the door. Here's the part where if you're so toxic and you're so bad to people, period, we just don't want you as a player. You're doing a net negative for the game. Ruben, you said you had watched something recently by Day 9 who kind of addressed something like this.
Yeah, absolutely. So Day 9, Sean Plott, who's played on the Pro Tour before, is a very famous vlogger, StarCraft commentator, gamer. He streams a lot. Yeah, community. There you go. So you've met Sean. You know how good he is. Huge, famous dude. Over 500,000 subscribers on YouTube. He had a very interesting take on the toxicity of, specifically in multiplayer games. Things like Duels of the Ancients, not Duels of the Planeswalkers, better known as Dota, and League of Legends and games like that. I'll see if I can paste the clip to the YouTube in the chats here, because it's well worth your time to watch this 4.5 minutes of video. But basically, he was talking about the toxicity of gamers, and he hit on a lot of very important points. And one of the most important points that he came upon was that it's not so much that these people are toxic, it's that they don't know how to self-regulate, and that it just is self-perpetuating, right? Like, you don't go into a match of Magic Online, or at least I don't, planning to be angry, right?
Sure.
But I do sometimes, especially on Magic Online, when you can't see your opponent. It's a lot easier to get angry. This is like why road rage is a thing. Like, when you bump into a dude at the coffee shop, you can see the empathy on their face. Oh, I'm sorry I bumped into you. But when you get bumped into at the traffic light, you don't have a face. It's just a car front. And that's why road rage is much more prevalent than it is just like when you get bumped into somebody with human emotions. Very similar to online. You don't see their face. And so when something happens and you get upset, there's no empathy. There's no sympathy face happening, and people get angry quickly. That's my own personal take on it. And Sean delves deep into that sort of mindset in this clip, and I think that I do think that people do need to be punished for this kind of thing. So sorry, I got distracted because apparently it's called Defense of the Ancients. I apologize. Not something I play. So sorry about that. But I think that Sean really succinctly puts a lot of those points out there, and it sort of is tangentially related to this Magic Online issue. Sure. In that certainly repeat offenders need to be sat down and have a talking to at the very least.
I feel like there is a reasonable conversation that you can have in terms of having some sort of ability to cut people out from being this vicious and toxic, and still getting their money. Because at the end of the day, Wizards, a subsidiary of Hasbro, needs them dollar bills. And the salty players spend money just like the non-salty players. But maybe if we could put fences around the stupid, then the stupid won't get on us anymore. And
in terms of Magic Online's bottom line, it only makes sense for them to do something about it. Because, you're receiving the same amount of money from everybody. So why would you let the guy who's hurting people's feelings on purpose stick around?
Now, Aaron, I
They're
know
chasing away your customers.
I know you've never actually entered someone who was like, nasty or mean to you. I know that you've never seen that happen ever, not once.
On the internet? Come on.
On the interwebs.
Well, to be fair, there was a time where I was that person. I've said some things I'm not proud of, and I've certainly apologized, and I've reduced it mostly to just a bless your heart now, or somebody plays 3 ley lines on turn 0, I might give them a bless your heart or something. But, I don't say things like I used to. But no, it's definitely a thing, and I think it's a matter of kind of putting your money where your mouth is. We've talked before about the initiatives that Wizards trying to do to, clean up local game stores and clean up tournaments, and yet, here it seems like there's a hole in that plan of, okay, you're willing to do all of these other things to make the in-person experience a lot better, but where is that initiative being shown here in the digital world? And it's I've certainly seen, I feel like I've seen worse stories of Magic Online where just some of the things people say I would never say to, and I've said some terrible things. There are things I've seen that I wouldn't even say, where it's just like that's going too far for even me. And so I definitely think there needs to be some sort of system in place. I think what they're doing now is okay, but when you see what's possible, I think even the Twitter thread that you linked, Evan, there were some really good suggestions there of like a strike system of like, you get so many strikes and after a while you just are cut off, where, right, you either are not able to chat at all, or you maybe even get your game privileges taken away. And there was also talk of, reducing chat to just sort of emojis or symbols. But then somebody had mentioned that in Hearthstone you can still do a lot with symbols, and that's not necessarily an answer either. But I think there's definitely room to improve here, and I'm anxious to see what people come up with.
Right. And I know it's not. I would argue this isn't necessarily at the top of any of Magic Online's priorities right now.
Sure.
But I wanted to bring it up because I think it's a thing that they're probably not thinking about, and they're like, well, we've got some systems in place, and you can report people, and and if there is a ladder of terribleness that you climb by being a horrible person, I would love to know what that ladder is and what it takes, so you could be transparent about it and say, this is how we deal with people who are horrible people online. That would be nice to know. If that exists, please let me know. That said, We're talking about emotions. We're talking about feeling them emotions. Aaron, tell me about the emotions in pro Magic. I'm going to bring up a tweet right now.
Why are you looking at me when you talk about emotions? I'm a completely level-headed person.
It's calm and collected.
Always. So Aaron Forsyth, who we love, had made a tweet yesterday that was talking about the Pro Tour. And specifically, he made a tweet that says, I've been on vacation, so I've missed Brad Nelson's top deck at GP Minn, but I saw that there was drama. We need to be more okay with outward emotions. And he goes on to talk about PV. And how PV decided that he was going to de-sideboard after his Pro Tour win instead of like jumping up and down, celebrating, what have you. And it turned into this whole thing about, you know, what do they expect from people? What do they want from people? You know, when you do well at a tournament, should you show some sort of excitement or jubilation, or should you kind of keep it inside? And it turned into, you know, Huey Jensen chimed in at one point and said that when you are a pro, you just sort of learn to keep those things in, and it can be hard to sort of flip the switch. And it just turned into this interesting debate over what's acceptable and what people want to see. And I thought it might be interesting to get your opinions on this.
It's weird that, yeah, I mean, the Pro Tour has been around for a very long time now. And now we have the Hall of Famers, so we have a certain amount of pros who are at a very large majority of the Pro Tours, if not all of the Pro Tours moving forward, because they have the automatic invite. Okay, so this is kind of the old guard, if you will, or what I would describe as the people who helped establish the pro culture. Now, the pro culture, in my opinion, based on my observations, they do not like anyone showing any emotion based on their winning or losing or otherwise. Yet, when you have the giant top decks and the huge emotional outburst when the Lightning Helix moment happened, when you have Christian Calcano making top 8 and the tears are rolling and everyone's emotional and it's an amazing experience and you'll remember that. And the pros are like, no, can you just not be like showing that you're happy and really enjoying yourself? I mean, there's clearly a line, I feel like, which is kind of obvious, that you're not going to go like rub it in your opponent's face, but you can still be really happy, and there's nothing wrong with that. And that doesn't mean that in other sports they don't celebrate, because they certainly do, but they don't just point and laugh at their opponents. They're excited because of what they accomplished. Yet the way that pros have operated and the culture that they have cultivated is that you can't do that, because it either shows weakness, it shows lack of focus, and something that even Owen was talking about was maybe the epic misplay wouldn't have happened if there was, if the emotion had been kept more inside in the top 4 match. So. Sure. I totally disagree with this. Personally, I want big, overt, over-the-top, exciting moments. I want when someone wins the World Championship to like flip out that they were at the top of the mountain, they got there. You want a Pro Tour? Oh my God! You don't sit there and sideboard or de-sideboard. You run up, you high five your buddies, you laugh, you cry, you jump in the air, you do a thing. Like it's weird that it's bad in quotes, bad in Magic to actually say, hey, I made a thing and I'm really happy about it.
Well, you say that, but I seem to recall Ari Lax, when he won Pro Tour Cons of Tarkir, I think it was, when he got lambasted for showing emotion. Right. People said there were literal articles that were written of, is Ari Lax a bad guy? Because, he had either, maybe slammed a card down, or he had maybe gotten too excited. And it's interesting to see people defending that kind of reaction, because a couple of years ago, y'all were bringing out the pitchforks of, Ari was doing too much, and it was unsportsmanlike. And it was this whole thing, and it was like, watching this go down, it was like, what do you want them to do? It's like, I think I think first off, we shouldn't be telling people how to deal with that. I think that there's nothing wrong with needing a minute, needing to unwind. I think we've all been there after, especially a really stressful game where, I know I tend to, sometimes I have that chatty opponent that like wants to talk to you, and you're like, I need a minute, like just a smooth 60 seconds, nothing personal, but I just need a minute. And I think that's an acceptable acceptable response. And I also think that, you know, a little bit of, you know, some excitement is fine too. Like, I don't think we should be telling people, you know, how to do that. As long as you're not standing up and yelling "suck at you," yeah, I think you're fine. But you know, it's just weird that, you know, there were so many people that were supportive of it, because I remember the Ari Lax backlash, and it's like, okay, now it's okay, because then it wasn't. And so,
well, as far as I can tell,
changes.
Not a lot of that has changed per se. You know what I mean?
Okay.
Like, in terms of like how the pros felt about it then, how the pros felt about it now. Like, they're like, whoa, you went too far. And Ruben, go ahead and how do you feel about this before I go on?
Okay, so here's the deal. I think that however you want personally to respond after winning a big match is up to you. Paulo can sit there and sideboard because he's been there before. He's Barry Sanders. I get it. He can just hand the ball to the referee. If you're BBD winning the World Championship for the first time, he had sort of a muted response, a little bit like, oh man, this is like the culmination of everything. But you could tell that it was emotionally impactful for him, right? Or you can be Ari, or you can be Brad at the GP, which is why this topic all got brought back up again. It's because Brad Nelson had a really good top deck and was really excited about it, and that's just who he is. You can do what you want in terms of a reaction, personally, and it's cool. Like, I don't need you to spike the ball. I don't need you to sit there and sideboard. Whoever you are, you live through it. My problem is the police. My problem is the self-appointed etiquette police who've decided that because this is my house, my Pro Tour, you are going to behave the way that I tell you how to behave at my Pro Tour. That's the problem that I have, is people who come out of the woodwork and not only selectively choose who they decide are going to be okay, because if you recall, the pro community very, very, like, clearly just forgot about the Ari thing very quickly after the Zergo Helm Smasher attack. They were just like, oh, that's kind of a bit of a thing, and then they just forgot it. And then they just hang on other people for whatever reason. And I don't really love that. But I think, my bottom line is, yes, I do prefer emotional outbursts. I do think it's better for the game when you have Seth Manfield break down in tears, when you have Calcano and the team come together and just have that beautiful moment. You aren't going to have Paulo sideboarding on a highlight reel. That's not going to help your game grow. The good play will help the game grow. The being a legendary player will help the game grow. But it's not going to be on SportsCenter highlights for the rest of time, right? You're going to have Mark Herberholtz's excited photo on the beach for the rest of time. That's what you're going to remember.
Right.
So that's my 2 cents on it, I guess, is I don't think it's a big deal when people go crazy. Obviously, it's a bigger deal when it's a one-on-one game as opposed to a team game. And so when you have outbursts in things like tennis or UFC or boxing or things like that, it can seem a little bit more like rubbing it in your opponent's face, but I don't think it's ever personal. I think the other one that's weird to me is when Jacob Wilson lost in the finals of the Pro Tour and people gave him crap for him saying that he was sick to his stomach about losing. Obviously, that's what's going to happen. Obviously, you're going to feel bad about losing, and now you're interviewing him 30 seconds later, and people are like, oh, he should grow up and have a better reaction to losing a $20,000 match of Magic. And it's just like, no, you shouldn't. That is exactly how you should feel. That's how I want my pros to feel. I want them to have a cutthroat attitude. That's what I want in the finals.
Right,
I want them to want to show how important it is.
I think what ultimately I think all of us agree, no one wants the emotional police. No one wants to tell people how to feel. The thing is, when they do feel how they feel naturally or whatever, they express themselves, suddenly it's like, whoa, you did something wrong. So let me say this. I want people to mark a line in the sand right now, okay? There's going to be a pro one day who does literally the opposite of this. There's going to be one who goes nuts every time they win, who showboats and who blows it up and who freaks out every time. Yeah.
Mike Long used to do that.
And
he used to do a lot of things.
Oh, yeah, and he used to do a lot of bad things. But one of the best things he did was he was charismatic, and you wanted to watch him, and you were excited when he did anything, and that was awesome. And there's going to be that person, and they are going to hate that person. They are going to hate the guy or girl who, God forbid, flips out when they snag their winning in, when they beat a huge Hall of Famer that they've never played before. That's going to be a big controversy because someone's really happy because they're beating them. I can't wait for that.
Me neither, because that's going to bring eyeballs.
That's
all that's going to do. Is it's going to raise the viewer count. It's going to make advertising dollars better. I don't, having a villain is really, really good for sports. Having someone you hate is really good. Like, people would tune in to watch Terrell Owens because people hated him. People tune in to watch LeBron James partially because some people like him, but a lot of people hate him. It's the same thing in all sports. Having a villain is a really good thing.
Well, on a positive note, I think it also makes you more likely to have more opportunities. When I was doing the deck tease, one of the issues that I came up against, and again, this isn't personal, is that a lot of the names that were big at the time weren't interesting. It was like I would get a lot of people who would, you'd watch a GP, you'd watch a Pro Tour, and people would tweet at me and say, so-and-so made top 8, you got to have them on your show. But when I look at their deck tech, when I look at their Twitter feed, they didn't have that charisma. I couldn't find a way to have you on my show and kill 60 minutes, but I can have Brad Nelson on my show and I can throw my notes out the window because he can carry a conversation and he can be, on a show like that. And so I think that, that's the tip of the iceberg in terms of other opportunities. Like, if you show that you've got a personality there, if you show that there's something behind the mask, that's going to open you up to people are going to want to have you on their show. People are going to want to make videos with you. That can really open a lot of doors for you in a way that, keeping to yourself won't.
Had Mike Long literally just not been a huge cheaty face, he would be one of the most lauded Magic players of all time. Right.
There's a difference between Floyd Mayweather and Conor McGregor. I'm gonna take this conversation off of a comment from Bubba Rad in the Twitch chat, which is people hate Conor McGregor, but he's like a nice dude in real life. Like isn't he like
low-key racist?
He's okay. Let me rephrase. He is a relatively nice dude in the fighting community.
Okay.
Right? He has like a longtime girlfriend. He donates a lot to charity. I'm not saying he's a good person, but on the other side of the coin is Floyd Mayweather. And, you should look at Mayweather's Wikipedia page because I'm not going to do that for you. But he is an actual bad person, right? Yeah. And both of them have their fans and both of them have their detractors. But they're both really charismatic, interesting bad guys, right? And so whether you love or hate them, it doesn't matter if the opponent's interesting. It doesn't matter if anything else is happening. People want to see the person. Right? And that's what Magic needs. The problem is that a lot of these folks are brought up in these communities of these team environments where they're taught not to show this emotion. And so people who might otherwise have filled this role don't necessarily build that up anywhere. So we're never going to have the bad boy of Magic like we had with like Mike Long and people like PTR back in the day. Like, that's never going to be a thing anymore. So.
No, not in its form back then, but I mean, look, ultimately, I did full set reviews with Jerry Thompson and Todd Anderson, and those guys are great, and obviously they've changed and grown over the years. But when I did a set review with Brad, I knew it. It was there, and it was fun, and we could just kind of feed off each other because we were on the same vibe there, and so to try to make that bad makes me upset. However, we have to keep moving. That said,
Speaking of being upset.
Oh my God, we have a red zone. Oh, guys, we got a red zone up here. Ruben, what's our red zone?
Our red zone is going to prove once again that Ruben agrees with 60% of the people in the world. Hashtag Vidalkin Shackles.
This is how Trump got elected. You want to know how we got here? Vidalkin Shackles is how we got here.
Oh my God.
You are fake news. So the red zone this week is going to be. Look, 1,500 people have spoken. If you want to change the system, you can put it through subcommittee. Hashtag elections. Hashtag democracy. I'm a messenger. I'm just a messenger for the people. Is all I'm trying to say. And the people agree with me on Vidalkin Shackles. We'll see if they agree with me on Sol Ring. This is the premise. Sol Ring should not be in the Commander decks. Is my argument. Sol Ring should not be in the Commander decks. Would you like to go first or second?
I'll let you go ahead. I will let you go ahead and take the bat there. Go ahead.
Yeah.
Okay. Sol Ring is a blight on the existence of Commander. The fact that it exists and is allowed is like, when we talk about the gentleman's agreement to allow Brainstorm to continue existing, when we talk about the gentleman's agreement to allow Mishra's Workshop to continue to be a 4 of in Vintage, it's that to the nth degree for a card that is consistently chosen as the first pick in every cube ever, and one of, if not the most powerful mana artifacts of all time. To allow that to exist in a singleton format of 99 cards, and let that kind of variance exist in your casual multiplayer fun format is horrendous. It is inexcusable. There is no way that that should be allowed. The fact that Sol Ring continues to be allowed in Commander, much less put in every Commander deck, is stupid. It is unbelievably dumb. It is so stupid. Like,
wow.
I would pick Sol Ring over, like, at least a third of the cards that are on the actual Commander ban list to put in my deck. Like, if I could only put one in. And, oh, by the way, Mana Crypt also has to go. But Sol Ring is the real problem.
Where does it stop? Where does it stop if you're not happy with Sol Ring? Are you happy with Mana Vault?
Mana Vault's fine.
Mana Vault's okay? You happy with Grim Monolith? Is that all right?
Grim Monolith's fine.
Oh,
those are one-use objects. Like, I would be okay with Black Lotus, honestly.
All right, so
the fact that you can go from 1 to 4 to 5 to 6 to 7 in your blue deck or any deck is absurd.
Right.
And I swear to God, if you steal my tagline,
are you done?
Because you guys go second, I'm gonna flip this.
Because that's fine.
I mean, I didn't really hear anything worth stealing, but okay.
I get that.
Yeah, see.
But you're wrong, and I hate you.
God damn it.
Look,
I'm suing you.
Look, man. If you're over here saying, first of all, let me break it down. I think the way to break it down is that Ruben is not a casual Magic player.
Thank you.
Because casual Magic players, or I would describe them also as Timmies, which is, I'm a Timmy Spike, I'm a weirdo.
Or Tammies.
Or a Tammy, if you will. It's very nice. That said, you know, we're very much into the experience, and there is a thrill that you experience when you slam down that Sol Ring and say go. There's also a very balancing element of when one person has the crazy good mana, the other people are going to lean on them a little bit more. So yes, that's a little bit sort of a kingmaker, and if you're not okay with that, you don't have to play with Sol Ring. But let's just say, because these are the constructed decks, these are the pre-cons, this is the experience that Wizards wants to give you. Now note that everything in Commander is often very expensive, first of all. Sometimes it's not, particularly in 1v1, but that's why there's separate ban lists, and Wizards did a great job there. But in a world of multiplayer, this effect, while amazing in Cube and your 40-card limited deck with your pals who are playing crazy, you know, awesome constructed cards, is ridiculous and is a first pick not close. To say that casual players would not enjoy, do not enjoy, can't enjoy, it's ridiculous to have them in there, it's honestly, it's one of the building blocks of what I would describe as Commander. Like, literally one of the things that made it what it is they said, you know what? We love this thing so much, it's in everything because it always feels good. It provides just enough variance. There's a weird kind of Kingmaker ability. You're not going to see it all the time, but you're always going to be happy to have it. And that's pretty much my argument. Aaron, how do you feel about it?
So, as somebody who plays Sol Ring in 2 of her Commander decks, you know, I think that, you know, you brought up a really good point. You know, you're running 1 copy of it in a 9,900 card deck. You know, the odds of you seeing it, I think, are minimal. You know, and I think that the times, I can honestly say, the times that I've had it, I do not feel like I had. You know, you were using some really big terms. You know, you made it sound like a really swingy thing of like, if you have it, you know, it's this, and if you don't have it, it's this. I have personally not experienced it like that. And maybe it's just the commanders that I use, and maybe it's the decks that I play. But I've never felt like I was miles away because I had a Sol Ring, and likewise, I never felt like I was miles behind because I had it. You know, I think one interesting thing I want to bring up here is the idea of house rules. You know, one of the nice things about Commander is that if you don't like something that's going on in the greater Commander Commander scene, you can choose to make your own rules. You know, if you have your own local play group, you know, you can choose to say we recognize the ban list or we don't recognize the ban list. You know, the group that I play with, we don't really keep up with the ban list as we know it. So if somebody plays a Sylvan Primordial, if we decide that we don't like it, at that point we'll stop using it. But we've never like cracked down on cards just because Sheldon Memories told us to. And you can do that too. You know, likewise, if something is banned and you all agree that you really like that card for your pod, you can choose to make that decision and have it be a thing. The local game store that I play at, you know, they have a rule against infinite combos where, you know, if you have a loop, you get 3 spins of the loop and then you're done. So, you know, if you personally and the people you play with don't like Sol Ring, you can certainly add that rule to your table that you don't want to use it. And that's the nice thing about Commander. You know, the people who do have a problem with it can institute that, and those of us that don't have to. And so I just don't really see the issue here. You know, I personally have not experienced that. I've never felt that way when my opponents have played a Sol Ring. I've never felt like I'm screwed. I just honestly don't see the big deal. Like I've never.
So Ruben,
who are you playing? I'd be more concerned with the people you're playing with.
My Commander play group that I played with in college, back when I was very serious into Elder Dragon Highlander, was very competitive. We had the spikiest.
But that's on them then. That's on the people being.
It's not just that. What I'm saying is that like that group was very spiky. I've also played with casual people. The problem with Sol Ring is that it is a ubiquitous card. It goes in every deck. I used to have mono green Azuri with like 10 mana elves. And even with all of the mana elves in my deck, and like very few ways to use extra colorless mana early, I still ran Sol Ring in that deck.
Why?
The problem is because I still had things like a Chroma's Memorial and Gauntlet of Power, and you know other things that need the, and of course Azuri was my general, so you know I still needed it, if some of it, but like the problem is that it's literally a must include, right? So when you get to that point, where it's, you know, included so much more than every other card, that's a problem. In addition, games in which I've played a turn 1 Sol Ring and my opponents did not have a turn 1 Sol Ring, I ran away with not close 80% of the time. But it's just a huge problem. And your argument of saying that it's only one of in a 99 card deck could be used as an argument for literally every card on the banned list, right? Like, oh, there's only one Primeval Titan. How often are you going to see it, right? Like that's not a thing. So
but that's different because you can tutor Primeval Titan. You can Green Sun for it. You can Summoner's Pact it. How are you looking for a Sol Ring? Like, what are you using in the early games where it matters? What are you doing to find that Sol Ring faster than any other card?
I mean, I'm not. I'm just saying that, you know, this is the same. Isn't it the same argument? Am I missing something?
Ultimately, it's a little weird for me. Like, and I've been trying to come up with something, but of course you know, this is not really going to fit. But you know, if we were all playing Legos and they had a little Spaceman and all the Lego sets, and you're like, I wish they didn't have Spaceman Lego sets because that makes your fighter jets super awesome. And I'm like, but I like when my fighter jets are super awesome. And that's not,
I mean, I like when my fighter jets are super awesome too. It's just that if there's one piece, man, I don't like your Lego analogy.
See, I didn't like my analogy either, but I was like, I wanted to say something about having Spaceman and you not being okay with having Spaceman. I was really trying. I was there.
I'm okay with having Spacemen. I'm okay with having
Sol Ring.
Space Women.
Got it.
But I'm not okay with Sol Ring. So, look, we can combat until the horns blow and the trumpets sound and the end of days comes, and we will not come to an agreement on this.
Right. If only it was a completely casual format that you can make your own rules. Got it.
If only it was a completely casual format. Yeah.
Where some rules are down, but you make your own. It's fine. All right. So we don't really have time for going infinite, but I did want to touch on it really, really quickly. This week, there was an article that apparently he'd done once before, but this week I noticed that Frank Carson did an article in Channel Fireball that says, what if every artifact in Magic entered the battlefield at the same time? That is an amazing premise.
Yeah, I read this article.
Amazing.
Spectacular. He actually missed a couple things, so his way to win was not the most the perfect way, but this was a really fun thought experiment.
Yeah, this is one of the coolest, most incredible, just as an idea. Like to me, this is as original as when Stephen Menindian wrote the article that said, "What if you had no 4X limit?" What if you could literally run 20 Black Lotuses and 20 of this and whatevers, you know? And he said even when that format let you run 20 Black Lotuses, it was still balanced with, you know, combo, like control and aggro or whatever, because there was the Goblins thing that could win on turn 2, there was the Storm deck that could win on turn 1 or 2, and there was the control deck that kind of countered all the things and then won that way. So, like, there was still a way for that to balance. And so if every single artifact came into the battlefield all at the same time, madness.
I liked that the biggest problem was that you also put in your own Null Rod and Damping Matrix and had to figure out how to win the game without activated abilities. I thought that was a ton of fun.
That was amazing. And obviously with like 1,500 artifacts, some things were going to be missed and some things were. Now Eon Hub wasn't taken into account because you skipped your
Eon
upkeep.
Hub, Ugin's Nexus, Null Rod, Damping Matrix. Like, there were a bunch of weird things going on for sure.
Yeah, it was amazing. And I had to point out something that when it was so cool, so unique, so creative, yes, he did when all the creatures entered the battlefield, but that to me wasn't even near as interesting as artifacts. You know, I went back and read the other one. It was great, but the artifact one was super entertaining.
Artifacts was super entertaining.
It was amazing. However, we must turn the corner to the finisher. Now, Magic Mike's is approaching their own version of the Second Sun. Sometime very soon now, Magic Mike's will have reached 500,000 downloads.
Wow. Yeah,
thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
That's pretty amazing.
Wow. So
that's a country.
That's a lot. So thank you, everybody, for all the support over the years. To celebrate, clearly we're resting on our laurels and taking next week off.
Right.
So what are you going to do to celebrate 500,000, Aaron?
Well, I'm going to do what I do best. I'm going to put my feet up, I'm going to cross my legs, and I'm going to put up Magic Pros behaving badly on Twitter on the big screen, all while sipping tea. Some delicious tea.
Wow. Very nice. So, I forgot the giveaway winner, but we'll get to that in just a moment.
Oh, we're so bad at that.
We will. Ruben, what would you like to do for your 500,000?
Well, I'm planning on finishing my first compendium collection, which I guess you guys can see in my Etsy store, of some of my favorite moments of the show. A nice little scrapbook of all the times I was right and all the times that my co-hosts were wrong, and I hated them.
Oh, and this is where you're wrong and I hated you? And I hated you so much there. Look, you didn't hate you. I hated you so much.
The cover is going to be a artist's proof of the Dalkin shackles.
Okay.
So bad. Well, look, I am going to finally have an opportunity to step away from my responsibilities and spend some quality time ranting at my family. That's what I do.
Perfect.
That's how I roll. Let's pick ourselves a winner. Because somebody is going to get themselves a free vampire deck. Let's do this. We're drawing the winners. We're doing the things. We're flooping the pig. Let's make it happen. All right. So congratulations to Logan P, who entered via Twitch. Apparently, yes. Mr. Logan P, please contact me at Magic Mike's Cast on Twitter or at Mr. Orange on Twitter. We will get you your super cool Commander 2017 deck when it releases. However, that does end another episode of Magic Mike's. Thank you for joining us here to discuss all things Magic. Thank you, Aaron.
Thank you for having me.
Thanks, Ruben, for hanging out, buddy.
Thank you. I'll see you in, well, I guess I'll see you Monday, but I'll see everybody in 2 weeks.
Right. We'll see everybody else. That said, we're going to our final slide. I want to thank our sponsor, CoolStuffInc.com, my co-hosts, Aaron Campbell and Ruben Bressler, you guys for watching, and hope you support us at patreon.com/MagicMikes. Visit our website at MagicMikesPodcast.com that exists thanks to our Patreon supporters, or follow, like, tweet, favorite, share, subscribe to everything social that tells people that we exist. Catch us online at twitch.tv/MagicMikes, on Twitter at MagicMikesCast, on Reddit at reddit.com/r/MagicMikes, and on Facebook at Facebook.com/MagicMikes. Talk to us privately at MagicMikesPodcast@gmail.com. Follow the audio-only podcast at MagicMikesPodcast.libsyn.com, or find us on iTunes, or join us here next week. Same time, same place. Okay, maybe not next week, but in 2 weeks. Same time, then same place for another episode of Magic Mike's. Good night, everybody.